Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at Fromm Jake. Puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Man, do we have a show for you this week. That's right. It's week 5 of the college football season. Bringing in a very special guest for first down of our 3 and Out segment, a great buddy of mine. If you follow SEC football, I would hope you know who he is. None other than Chris Marler, a tastemaker, a social media savant. He's a great guy. He's here off the rip. Chris Marler, how are you, dude?
Social media savant. I've lost
Yeah.
yet another Twitter account, so I appreciate you bringing that up. I don't know if there's anything that you said that you're not just your audience, but Georgia fans would have agreed with, but it's good to be here.
We'll get to all that. I appreciate you. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, a huge show as the number 2 ranked Georgia Bulldogs head to Tuscaloosa to take on the 4th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Jake Fromm, what's up with you, man? How's everything going?
Hey, man, doing great. Getting ready for a big game on Monday Night Football. Also getting ready for this Georgia versus Alabama game as well. So, man, a lot of cool, exciting things happen this weekend, man. Can't wait to have a good show.
No question. One of the reasons I brought Chris on, obviously, is because he is an Alabama fan. I brought you on, and I'll throw you flowers quickly, Chris. You have been spot on in your analysis in some of Alabama's biggest games of late. I go back to last year against Texas. You were right on it. Go back to last year in the SEC championship game. You were spot on in that game as well. So I was like, let's get Marler on here. I need somebody to talk some sense into me. We'll have a great discussion. I also brought you on because I need you and your prop picks. Marler always posts his picks every single weekend. Very, very sharp on the props as well. So, of course, he's going to be presenting his Prize Picks entry of the week. This episode of Punt and Pass is presented to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT. That's P-U-N-T, PUNT. When you play your first $5 entry, you get an instant $50. Win or lose, you get $50. Chris Marler has yet to download the Prize Picks app. He will be downloading the Prize Picks app. He will be using the promo code PUNT. He will be playing a $5 entry, and then you get $50 instantly. So, Chris, that's my gift to you. Thank you so much. You can play cross-sport entries. Pick 2 to 6 players. Guess if they will go more or less than their stat projection and watch the winnings roll in. I mean, it's that simple.
Pretty simple.
You're going to give us an entry. It's going to cash. It will make this weekend great, win or lose, if you're a Georgia or an Alabama fan. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just jump right in to 3 and Out. It's first down. Chris Marler's here. It's a huge weekend. And as many people know, my wife went to Alabama. Chris, I'm going to the game with my daughters. Yeah, it's going to be insane. Don't even know how it's going to work out. Don't really care. Wasn't going to fight that fight. It's a losing battle. I'll just suck it up and grin it. We're going to the game. Jake has played against Alabama in these super high-profile games, notably in the national championship game. Then he had one of the best games of his career in the SEC championship game. So, Jake, we'll start with you. We talked about this last year as well in the SEC championship game. What's the mood like right now? Both of these teams coming off a bye. Georgia, of course, looked awful against Kentucky. Alabama goes up to Wisconsin and smokes them. Now it's time for the rubber to meet the road. 7:30 prime time. Fowler and Herb Street. The dog will be there too, obviously. College game day. All that nonsense. What's going on this week at practice?
Yeah, bye week has come and gone. Guys have gotten away for a little bit. They turned their brains off from focusing on football. And this week they're coming back. They're getting the game plan. A very tough and physical Tuesday practice has just happened. A very tough physical Wednesday practice has just happened. And that fire is getting lit right now. Kirby is lighting a fire for these guys, and they are just getting ready to roll. I think what Kirby's going to do here is try to manage emotions in this game. Like try not to make it bigger than what it is. I mean, this is at the beginning of the season. There's a lot left to play after, still a lot left to prove. So I think Kirby is trying to do both at the same time. Hey, make sure these guys are ready to go, because nothing is better than winning this football game, but also try not to make it bigger than what it is. And the last loss that a lot of these guys on this team has had was to Alabama in the SEC championship game. So, man, they're going to be feeling a lot. There's going to be a lot of emotions in this game. And I think it's about staying as even kill, but also getting ready to play at the same time. It's hard to do both, but that's kind of where my brain's at.
Yeah, Chris, I would say, and I totally agree with you, Jake, 100%. I would say that the emotions that might need to be managed the most are none other than head coach Kirby Smart's. Going into that SEC championship game last year, I was on the field pregame doing some work, and you kind of felt it. Like Georgia was uptight, Alabama was loose. And it ended up proving to be the difference in the game. Georgia made a couple of mistakes that they couldn't overcome. So I guess what are your overall thoughts heading into this matchup, Marler?
I mean, one, I think that the entire perception of Georgia is like a prisoner of the moment trap. Like, I mean, they dominated Clemson. They dominated whoever they played in week 2. Then they go on the road to Kentucky and they struggle for basically 3.5 quarters. That apparently has just wiped the slate clean for what this team has accomplished so far. And it blows my mind. So, this line opened up at 4.5 in the summer. It got down to a pick 'em and immediately went up. It's been hovering around 1.5, 2.5. I mean, all the numbers show you that Kirby Smart has been dominant in situations like this. For whatever reason, every time he gets in the situation against Nick Saban Alabama teams, I don't know what happens. Like the 2021 SEC Championship and the 2023 SEC Championship, I said the same exact thing what Bama needed to do, which is get Georgia into an unfamiliar situation that is all too familiar at the same time, which is they haven't trailed hardly at all season, if at all. And if you get around the third, fourth quarter and it's late and they're still down, especially by double digits like last year, they may do something where, they get a little bit too tight. They make a couple mistakes. You saw the fumble inside the 20 last year with Carson Beck. But all the numbers show you that like this team is primed for a massive game. Like the chip on Kirby's shoulder in general is even bigger than it usually is. And it's not like they haven't had this thing circled since the schedules came out, right? So the only thing that's changed is they had a 1-point win and everyone overreacted to it.
No, look, I totally agree. And you bring up a great point of getting them in an unfamiliar situation. And when you're in that situation of being down possibly by double digits late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, and it's against Kentucky, on the sideline, you're like, we're going to win this game. Like, we're going to win this football game. We'll figure out a way. We'll grind out a 6-minute drive. We'll start pounding the rock. We'll score, and then we'll trust our defense. Right. When it's against Alabama, it's totally different. It's probably very different for the fans as well because, Jake, as I was sitting on the couch 2 weeks ago and Georgia's looking like shit, I was like, they're probably going to win this game. Like, they'll find a way to win this game against Kentucky. If that's the case this weekend in Tuscaloosa, it has every opportunity to get out of hand, or it just gets out of reach to where you're like, you can't overcome that. So I feel like the margins for error, even though Nick Saban is not there, even though these two teams are drastically different than they were a year ago, the margins of error are still so small. And I hope that doesn't play into playing too tight or playing scared, because that's when the mistakes really kind of rear their head, Jake.
Yeah, 100%. We've seen that a lot, kind of with Kirby coach teams in the past. You mentioned last week Washington, Kentucky. Like I never had a doubt in my mind that we weren't going to win the game, but just how ugly is it going to be? And you can't mess around with teams like Alabama, who are as talented as they are and are coached as well as they are. So I'm actually so just curious to see what the outcome of this game. Is it Kirby and Georgia versus Alabama? Is it more about Saban or is it more about Alabama? And we'll kind of figure out whatever that is in the outcome of this game. I personally think it's more to do with Saban than just the Crimson and Alabama. But that's just me.
I don't even disagree with what you're saying.
But I feel like that hasn't really been talked about much. I mean, maybe I'm not paying too much attention to it, Chris, but I feel like the Saban factor has not really been ratcheted up that much in the national media perspective. Clearly, Saturday with College Game Day there, it will be a gigantic talking point.
Yeah, and also, not going to tell you who it is because I don't think it's been released yet, but a very, very special guest picker that should be a lot of fun for game day as well. I'll tell you off air. Not going to tell you on air.
You cannot do that.
Oh, I absolutely can.
That is so illegal and against everything that I know you stand for. That's ridiculous.
Listen, I'm a real journalist, Drew. Okay.
Journalist. Okay.
I got to protect. No, not at all. Not at all. But listen, here's the thing. I think that one thing with Kirby versus Saban, it is much different. I will also say that this year, because I think that the fan base that was most excited to see Saban retire, which was probably Auburn and or Georgia.
Correct.
I don't think that fan base or any fan base that's like a rival fan base in the SEC or nationally is ready to live in a world where Bama somehow wins this game again.
Right.
Because at that point, like, what are the excuses? Like, what do you do? I mean, so that is, I mean, like, I feel like there's a lot more pressure on Georgia in this game than there is Alabama.
100%. I mean, there's no doubt that is such a fact. And, the stat of Kirby Smart being 1-5 against Bama, the first thing you could say is, well, that's against Nick Saban, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one win was for a national championship. And you look back through that graphic that they put up last weekend at the end of that Tennessee-Oklahoma game, you just circle it and say Georgia did get the monkey off their back. It stung last year when Bama knocked them out of the college football playoff. We could argue all day that they should have been in the college football playoff. Georgia, I'm speaking of. But that was what Nick Saban kind of had, that like voodoo dark magic over Kirby Smart to just know he was going to win more than he was going to lose in those types of matchups. So Jake pointed out something really good on Monday's podcast to where Kalen DeBoer at Washington had tons of success against Oregon and Dan Lanning's defense. Like, they spread them out. They spun the ball. They put points up on the board. And guess what? That defense is not too dissimilar from what Georgia runs, because obviously Lanning came from that Kirby Smart coaching tree. How much do you think, Jake, going back to you, do you think that really plays a role, or are they kind of grinding that tape saying, hey, this is where they expose some of these situations. We got to keep these sets tight?
Yeah, so I think he's going to bring in scheme-wise. Hey, I like these concepts. I like these things. I like these formations. But then now when they're grinding the tape this week, they're like, hey, I like the matchup, this player versus this player. Or, hey, this lineman, this scheme, this defensive lineman doesn't hold the edge very well. So maybe we can run wide zone to his side. Or, hey, man, if Michael's maybe playing, he's healthy, maybe we're going to have to, work on some toss crack schemes to his side, kind of get him off his rhythm a little bit. So there's a lot of different things that he can do over there on that side. But they have some explosive players. And I think this game really boils down to how well Jalen Milroe plays. If he's able to get out of the pocket, use his legs, extend plays, and is somewhat accurate with his arm in the passing game, dude, I'm nervous about it. I really am. I mean, you've seen it time and time again where dual threat quarterbacks just have a lot of success versus Kirby coach defenses.
Chris, Kirby Smart in his press conference on Monday, he kind of caught himself, and it was actually a really good audio clip. He was like, Jalen Milroe has certainly progressed so much as a passer compared to last year with this new offense that you can't let him get comfortable in the pocket. And then he goes, but it's almost even more dangerous if you let him get out of the pocket, because that's where the magic really is with a guy like Jalen Milroe. So how do you think Kalen DeBoer schemes up what Jalen Milroe is asked to do? Because last year in the SEC championship game, Georgia held him to 29 rushing yards, and it still didn't matter.
And most of that was on seemed like the last drive, right? I mean, like when to Milroe's credit, they did put the ball in his hands when Georgia came back and came within 3 with like 3 minutes to go, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think at that point you kind of were like waiting for the wheels to fall off if anybody thought that Bama was going to hold on there. But you have to credit Milroe, and he played really well in that game. And for most of the season last year, like, Texas was not in the SEC when they lost to him. He has not lost to an SEC team yet. He also is not going to go into he hasn't played in a situation or against a defense or a team that I think is as hungry as this team. Going back for a second, like what you said about DeBoer in Oregon versus Lanning, the main difference in those games, because I think he beat him 3 times in the last 2 years.
Yeah, they
were very, very close games for the most part. But the coaching decisions that Lanning made,
right?
Good point. Down like very early in the games. I like the maturation of Kirby Smart. Like, how much do we see of that? And then, really, the guy that we're not talking nearly enough about so far is Carson Beck. Like, I think Carson Beck's performance is going to have way more to say about this game than Jalen Milroe.
What does Carson Beck do, Jake? Sounds like he's kind of dealing with a little bit of a shoulder. Like, are they going to let him just open it up early, or are they going to try to establish the run game? I mean, I first 15 play script, I honestly have no idea, dude. I have no idea.
Because I'm in the same boat. I don't know. I mean, hey, take your shot, take your Toradol, whatever you got to do before the game. But like you got to be ready. You can't be holding anything back. But as far as Mike Bobo, what he's calling, what he's thinking, I have no idea. Like, do we try to assert ourselves in the run game and make this a physical and tough football game? Or do we scheme something up formationally and we're working, the quick passing game left and right, get the defensive line moving, get them tired so we can gash them later in the game? Or we just say, hey, man, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to take a shot on play one. Like, I have no idea. I really don't. I'm excited to see it. Man, I want the game to be put more in Carson's hands and say, hey, man, go win me this football game.
This might be a dumb question, and I feel like I should know the answer, Jake. That first 15-play script, is there an opportunity for it to be adjusted based on whether you get the ball first or whether, you kick it off and then you get them 3 and out, and obviously field position is different? Like, how much does that differ from we're going to take a shot on the first play, or defense looked really good, it was a 3 and out, now we have the ball at, the minus 35?
Okay, so I'll go quick story time here with this one to basically explain it. So I'm going third game, 2017, first SEC home opener versus Mississippi State. So we weren't going to run the flea flicker unless we got the ball first play of the game. Emotions, tensions are hot because we wanted the safeties just to bite. I mean, so hard. Jonathan Abrams, I believe, on the playing safety.
Yeah.
And we just wanted him nosy. So we weren't going to do that unless we got the ball first. Odds are, we were, because most teams defer and we were taking the ball. So odds were in our favor. So yes, there's a little bit adjusted if we have a play like that, a trick play, a shot play, something like that. But some coaches, some trees, they don't care. And hey, we're just going to run what we're going to run.
Chris, give you a couple players to look out for. I mean, obviously, you can't let Ryan Williams go wild. The dude's absolute freak. He should still be in high school. That's a topic for another day. Jam Miller, Justice Haynes. Is Alabama going to run the ball? Is it all Jalen Milroe? Is it a guy on defense? Like, you're the Alabama guy. What's going to happen? Who's going to have a breakout game if Bama has it their way?
So I think it'd be Jam Miller or Justice Haynes. I think like from somebody in like the run game is going to have to establish some sort of balance, because they are not going to be able to drop back 30 times again or 30 times in this game and air it out if they're going to try to win. First off, Jalen Miller has never had to do that. He's done it one time in his career, thrown over 30 attempts, and it was against Texas last year, and we saw how that played out. So I think that somebody like that in the run game is going to have to be a huge support just to get like the offense going. I'll say Jeremy Bernard. Or Kendrick Law, like one of the other like unsung heroes, I think, at receiver, especially a guy like Kendrick Law, who you can use. They haven't used him a lot so far this year, but he was a staple part of like reverses and like the pop pass and like things like that, like they did last year. I think they might try to get him going a little bit because he's a physical freak, and you want to try to get this defense maybe east and west a little bit more than north and south, because you're not going to run into the teeth of that defense. On a negative side of it, like I think that's like a pro Georgia side, I would say that probably Damani Jackson or one of those young defensive backs. Bama is really, really thin and really young at defensive back. And I just like, if you watched any of the games they played so far, like it happened constantly against against USF, and they had guys running free over and over and over again early in the game. They just didn't have a quarterback that could hit them. So I think if Georgia does that, they're going to have they'll be able to connect on those big plays.
All right. Well, I know you got your podcast to record tonight, so we'll let you get out of here in a minute. But I need your prediction because you've been so spot on. I was texting with you earlier this week. I was like, who do you like? He's like, oh, Georgia's so mighty and it's going to be so tough. I was like, dude, just come on. Just shoot me straight, Marler. What do you got? What's going to happen this weekend?
So here's the thing. You can call it an emotional hedge or whatever.
Oh, don't do this.
Hold on. Just getting into the game. This Bama team can score, and they can score in bunches, and they score quickly, right? We haven't seen Kirby Smart defenses give up a ton of points ever since he's been the coach of Georgia, right? I think he's given up over 30 points.
Has not given up a touchdown yet this season.
Yeah.
Also a good point. I was going to say that next, so thank you.
Sorry, Chris. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. But they haven't given up over 30 points except for, I want to say, since like 2018. They've done it 7 times in 85 games.
Yeah,
And
probably 3 of them are to Alabama.
Right. 2020, I think the 2018 game as well. And a couple of those were like the LSU Joe Burrow teams as well. So the other thing is Georgia doesn't have a single turnover all year. And I think that the Kentucky front seven, this is going to sound crazy, but the Kentucky front seven is better and pose more problems than I think Bama's front seven will. They do different things well. And I don't trust Bama's secondary. I think that Milroe will have his moments, but I think Carson Beck is going to come in. Again, you're talking about Kirby Smart coming in off a bye week. He's 8-1 coming off a bye, winning those games by over 20 points per game. Revenge games since 2017. I think he's won 8 of them by an average of 28.8 points per game. Georgia's also the only team. It's the only team in the country that somehow gets better versus ranked opponents. And you look at what they did the last 3 years, including this year, but their average points per game goes up every time they play a ranked opponent. So I like Georgia with a chip on their shoulder. I like them to win right around probably 7 to 10 points, but I'll say Georgia 31-20.
Wow. Hey, and listen, people, he's been spot on as of late. I haven't heard necessarily many people take that side. So great statistics. Way to back up your claim. I'm proud of you for the emotional hedge. We all got to have our emotions in check, like you said. But
yeah, you know me. I'll do a great job with that on Saturday.
30-21 Georgia over Alabama, says Chris Marler. So lay the 2 points, lay the 1.5, whatever. I don't know where it'll settle at game time. Chris, where can people find you? Because this is before we let you go, like what's going on in social media? I joke with you and I say you became based and all of a sudden they kick you off social media. There are no coincidences, dude.
So I lost an account last year and I had to so it's like my third account basically, and built it back up. I had like 4,500 followers or something, third time. Email got hacked because I made an email specifically for this new account and something happened and it was, whatever. But you can find me all over. I'm doing stuff with Locked On, covering South Carolina, stuff with Next Round Live and Cover Crimson, covering Bama. And then I'm social media manager and running social media for ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, as well as LouisianaSports.net.
So you're not a busy guy.
Dude. Celsius nonstop.
Well, man, thanks so much for joining us. I have your prize picks here. I'm going to give those out here in just a little bit, but I appreciate that. So win or lose, you'll be getting a lot of credit. I thank you. I'm going to jump on with you after we're done here. Chris Marler, everybody, at Vern Dumquist, I believe is what it is.
Yeah, it feels fair at this point. No more fun quest. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Fourth and Wrong podcast. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Week, and thanks to Chris Marler for jumping on. So a little bit of an extended first down. Chris is a good buddy of mine. He's so funny. He is one of the ultimate antagonists or protagonists. I forget what the correct word is there. He likes to poke people on social media. So I believe that would be an antagonist, right?
Yeah. Antagonist, that's the villain, protagonist, main character, guy who's going to change throughout the story. I paid attention in 6th grade. What can I say?
There you go. I'm old, so I've forgotten all that stuff. Well, that's good stuff. And we'll obviously dive a little bit more into the Georgia-Alabama game in just a little bit. Let's go to second down, Spencer. And this is a storyline that really took over the college football world all day on Wednesday. Out of Las Vegas, UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka announces that he will not play another game. Jake, he will take his redshirt year. This is the starting quarterback, and he is done for the 2024 season for the undefeated UNLV Running Rebels due to, quote, unfulfilled representations over NIL promises. So essentially what was broken earlier in the day on Wednesday is that Matthew Sluka was owed monies that he had not been paid via the school or the collective or somebody that said, we'll give you NIL money. And after the 3-0 start, he hired an agent. That agent went to these parties and said, pay my player this and more. They said no. Starting quarterback now sitting out for the rest of the season. Jake, this is the new world of college football. This is probably not the first instance where this is going to happen, not even at UNLV, because the running back has since announced he's sitting out the rest of the season, but it is unmitigated, unregulated free agency in the middle of a season. It's kind of crazy to think it's gotten to this point. And UNLV fans have to be a little bit beside themselves at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, just absolutely bonkers. This is crazy that this is where we are at with NIL and college football. Not only is this going to be a story on ESPN, for the week, I mean, this is going to be talked about in locker rooms throughout America for days, for weeks, maybe months, because this is so intricate, such a person-by-person basis. I mean, do I like the situation? No, I do not. But put myself in that man's shoes. Like, if this was talked, agreed verbally, I come from, a handshake. Hey, a man, if that's your word, that's your word. And I'm going to take you on your word here. And this wasn't paid out. Like, think about an NFL situation. If I'm working week to week and, hey, my contract says this, but I'm not getting what my contract says. Now we can always make the argument, well, it's a contract, you signed it, it's in paper. Young man maybe should have gotten in paper. Maybe that's a tip and a just something that you do from now on for all these other young guys in college getting recruited. Hey, maybe we should put a little pen to paper on this thing, go even more NFL than what we already are. But dude, this is crazy. And I don't even know what to say other than, hey, I completely understand where this young man is coming from. If they're not, fulfilling their end of the deal, hey man, I gotta walk. But I hate it because I feel as a quarterback position, you're letting your team down. And they just beat 2 Power 4 teams and just got ranked. And there's a lot of hope for this team this year. But man, I mean, this is just a bad, sticky situation. And I think, I don't know. I think you got to do it. I think you got to put your foot down.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I mean, to your point, like if he was promised $100,000 or whatever it is, I'm not even sure if the number has been confirmed or corroborated as far as what he's owed. I saw $100,000 floating around, and he's only been paid $3,000.
Yeah, I heard $100,000 and a $3,000 moving stipend was all that he really got.
Let me play the devil's advocate here. Shame on him for not putting pen to paper. Like, first and foremost, I was joking with guys, and I even said it before we jumped on. Like, plenty of husbands out there have made verbal agreements with their wives to have fun on certain nights, and those promises are not fulfilled, and you're probably still married. You know what I mean? Like, now money is completely different than satisfaction in that situation or that comparison, Jake. But what I'm saying is that if it's a verbal agreement and you're talking about $100,000, shame on this kid. Shame on his family for not getting representation. Shame on them for not papering the contract and making that thing as buttoned up as possible. Because in this new world, just take a look around. There are empty promises all over the place. You have to double and triple check yourself in these specific situations. So if he feels strongly enough that he can just walk away and say, they owe me money, I'm not playing without it, I guess credit to him. Spencer, if you want to throw up some of these graphics that we have in terms of his announcement, I mean, he went to social media, love the edited graphic here. Thank you.
Got to,
Matthew Sluka, got to. He's saying he's decided not to play anymore. He's going to utilize his red shirt despite discussions. Some certain representations were made to me. They were not upheld. It became clear that these commitments would not be fulfilled. I wish my teammates the best of luck. So he is taking a business decision here, Jake, to your point.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I got 2 more points. Business decision, yes. Okay, so this is probably not an NFL guy. He's not, probably going to get a combine invite, probably doesn't, think he's going to get drafted, all that thing. So like,
right.
For him, his high income years at this age,
this is it.
This is it, right?
Yeah, this is his earning potential on a football field.
So I think you have to take advantage of that, and that is what he's trying to do. The other point was, from what I understand, this verbal agreement did not come from head coach Barry Odom.
Right.
This came from the
offensive
coach. Well, is it assistant coach or offensive coordinator?
One or the other, yes.
One or the other. To me, if it's the head coach, I think this is a no-brainer. If this didn't happen, hey, you're well within your rights. But to me, even if it comes from an offensive coordinator, to me that's still good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Spencer,
but
throw up
hey,
the other, keep talking, Jake. Throw up the other graphic of a UNLV's statement. This might be the collective, Jake.
yeah,
But the collective had to save face on their own side.
yep.
UNLV comes out, they make a statement, and they said football player Matthew Sluka's representatives made financial demands upon the university and its NIL collective. The UNLV athletics department interpreted these demands as a violation of the NCAA pay-for-play rules as well as Nevada state law. The university does not engage in such activity, nor does it respond to implied threats. So UNLV's taking a strong stand. We can go back and we can see what the collective said, because you just said it, Jake. The head coach didn't make this promise. Supposedly it was the offensive coordinator or the assistant coach. And the collective comes out and says, look, there were no formal NIL offers made during Skula's recruitment process. There was never a finalized or agreed upon NIL offer. So they're doubling down as well. The collective and the university. Now this coach rumor is out there. It is just a total mess. It really is. It's going to put a stain on what this new era of college football is until there are some rules and regulations that are implemented, which I wouldn't hold your breath if I was a college football fan. But I did see a tweet today. I think it was Josh Pate, who we love. Josh Pate was like, I can't wait for everybody to freak out about this UNLV story. And then Georgia, Alabama will have the highest ratings of all time. Like, people are going to watch the games. Like, they love college football. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. And our producer Spencer just puts here to the chat, the UNLV running back, which I said may have set out due to unfulfilled NIL commitments. He tweeted out, quote, "My decision has no ties to NIL agreements. This was due to on-field opportunities. I did not receive a dime from any UNLV collective."
Yeah, I'm at loss for words because I know what's going to happen now. I mean, you're going to have parents and high schoolers going to these recruiting visits, and they're going to have their agent, they're going to have their attorney, they're going to have pen and paper. They're going to have recorders for all these conversations.
Yep.
I mean, it's just
I know that does happen for a fact. I know that happens. These collectives, when they talk to recruits, they record the conversations now, because so much can get lost in translation. So much can get lost in what collective said what. They have to CYA. They have to cover their asses. And like you just brought up a great point talking about parents. Like, as a parent myself, you want to stick up for your kid. You want to say, yes, sit out. That's bullshit. They should pay you. But as a parent, you're supposed to say at the onset, let's sign some paper. Let's get this thing absolutely buttoned up. So I don't know. I throw my hands up. It's just a tough situation.
Yeah, we're going to see it play out. And
yes, we will.
Can't wait to get maybe some more details on it as well.
All right, let's have some fun here. Let's go third down. Lane Kiffin, the coach who's just tugging the heartstrings of SEC and college football fans everywhere. It seems like he's in a good place, Jake. And I say that because he's having fun. He really seems like he's got nothing to lose, taking shots at Paul Feinbaum, on the set with Paul Feinbaum over the summer, tweeting out stuff, doing TikToks with his daughter. And now him and Hugh Freeze are in a little tit for tat. It's funny because after Hugh Freeze threw his quarterback squarely under the bus post-game last week after the loss to Arkansas, you and I discussed that on Monday's podcast, Lane Kiffin took the stand in his weekly press conference, and he threw some very subtle, veiled shots at Hugh Freeze. See if you catch my drift here.
Is that relationship? I just think from on the field, there's a trust level there of, we spend a lot of time with him and then let him play too on Saturdays. And I just think that, like you said, it started one way. I think that, you build that, especially for a guy that we didn't really recruit out of high school, any of that, didn't have a previous relationship. And I think it pays off, when you have relationships and the quarterbacks trust you too, and go back to Matt Corral when he threw 6 interceptions. And before I even got to the media, sitting down with him, telling him, we got to do a better job calling plays. I got to coach better. And don't worry, we got your back. And so I think that goes a long ways, and goes a long ways with kids in recruiting, of knowing what they're going to get when they get here from a relationship, and that they can trust us to have their back.
I think that's really powerful. And Jake, as a quarterback, you have to love to hear that, especially if you're a recruit.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Lane knows exactly what he's doing. He's just accomplishing so many different things in a subtweeted interview question, right? He's poking jabs at Hugh Freeze, and he's letting the whole world know, the high school football world know that, hey, man, if you come play quarterback for me, I got your back. I'm not going to throw you under the bus, and I'm going to take care of you. So that's where Lane's at, and right now he's having fun, and he's having fun because they have a good football team, and they're scoring a lot of points. And he knows, man, this might be my hit or miss year, and I'm going to have fun with it. And that's, to me, that's a really good place to be if I'm Lane Kiffin.
So it sounds like those veiled shots, obviously saying we love our quarterbacks here. We develop relationships with them. We want to earn their trust. We take responsibility for bad coaching and bad play calls if things go wrong. You know, the complete antithesis of what Hugh Freeze said in his post-game press conference. It sounds like that got back to Hugh Freeze, meaning, hey, did you hear what Lane said? It sounded like he was subtweeting you in an interview. So Hugh Freeze, in his latest media availability, Jake, he praised, like overly praised Lane Kiffin. And then he even went so far to talk about, hey, Ole Miss has a great NIL structure. They're doing so well, like just throwing flowers all over Lane Kiffin. And here's what Lane Kiffin said to respond to that. Spirit Ben on X, he says, Hugh Freeze praised Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss's NIL structure on the SEC teleconference call. Lane Kiffin's response, quote, "That's nice of him. I'm sure he'll try to steal Walker Jones, the head of our collective, just like he did all of our coaches," end quote. So he just doubles down and lays the smackdown on Hugh Freeze and says, buddy, I'm not taking the bait there. He's drawing the line in the sand on the Hugh Freeze and Auburn delineation.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, look, Lane's doing such a fantastic job on social media, with his daughter,
Yes.
with all, I mean, just he's funny. He's kind of embraced who and what he is, and he's doing a good job at it. He's in a great place at Ole Miss. Got a really good football team, great quarterback. I mean, for me, this is kind of his year, and then we'll see what kind of jobs open up. Will Lane be on the move? I don't know, probably, but I think he's got it good at Ole Miss. I think he enjoys it. But to me, I think it's all about the quarterback. But with NIL and the transfer portal, hey, man, you can go get a quarterback every year, depending on where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, is he happy at Ole Miss? He will certainly be a hot name, just like he was a year ago. His daughter goes to Ole Miss. You sent this to me the other night, right after we recorded, or I think before we recorded, we weren't able to get to it, but a TikTok of Lane Kiffin with his daughter doing a, quote, "get ready with me" video started going viral. We have to play a clip for you. I thought it was phenomenal. Spencer, throw that up here. We'll react.
Get ready with us for game day. Today is the game versus Georgia Southern.
That's good. You got it right, Georgia Southern. What a great day. You know, yoga this morning. How was yoga, or how was your morning?
I woke up at 7 something and watched TikTok for an hour.
What about you could watch College Game Day?
Yeah. How are you feeling about the game?
I'm feeling really good. Feel like Juice is back in action and ready to go, and so, I hope our fans just are awesome today. I'm sure they will be.
So good. So good. That went on for like 2.5 minutes. It's great. Go check it out if you haven't yet. But as a father of 3 daughters, I hope TikTok is not around when they grow old enough to have cell phones. But if it is, I'll throw myself in a little "get ready with me" video. Jake, you know me.
Yeah, that's right. You'll do that very well and represent very well. Funniest quote, if you do go and watch it, funniest quote of that was Lane saying, "Everybody loves a winner." Man, just good stuff. Good wholesome content,
It really was. And to that quote, the daughter was saying the mom is coming to the game. I guess it's Lane's ex-wife, the mother of the daughter. And Lane goes, "Oh, that's interesting. She hasn't been to a game yet this year, but we are ranked 5th in the nation, and everybody loves a winner." So too good. Too good. All right, that's 3 and out. Good stuff. Let's get into some games. Before we do that, we have the Chris Marler special, the Prize Pick special. Again, Marler is a bona fide sharp when it comes to picking props, and that's exactly what Prize Picks is. It's stat projections. You got to go more or less than stat projections. Pick 2 to 6 players, put them together. You can 10x your money. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT When you play your first $5 entry, you immediately get $50. Here's what Chris Marler picked. All right. Jackson Dart, who is lighting it up for Ole Miss right now, playing against Kentucky, more or less than 298.5 passing yards. Marler said less. So we're going with a less than to kick this one off. Next up, we're going to the Dogs versus Bama. Georgia running back Trevor Etienne, 70.5 rushing yards. Marler said more. Alabama running back Jam Miller, more or less than 45.5 rushing yards. Marler said more. So he thinks going to be rough and tough, ground and pound in Tuscaloosa this weekend. Let me read that once more, okay? Because it's cashing this week. I had to take a week off. We called in a special guest. It's none other than Chris Marler at Vern Dumquist on X. Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback, less than 298.5 passing yards against Kentucky. Trevor Etienne, Georgia running back, more than 70.5 rushing yards against Alabama. And Jam Miller, Alabama running back, more than 45.5 rushing yards against Georgia. That is your Prize Picks entry of the week. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT. You get an instant $50 when you play your first $5 entry. All right, this has been a great episode so far. Let's try to go kind of speed style here, Jake. We'll kick it off. We'll spend a little bit of extra time on the Georgia-Alabama game. We'll go inside the 5. It's the biggest game of the week. College game day. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time kick on ABC. Number 2, Georgia at number 4, Alabama. The Dogs right now are a 2-point favorite. The total, 48.5 points. Jake, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't know. So talk to me.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you where I don't know. I'm just going to keep throwing stuff out there. I'm going to keep talking out loud, and maybe I can talk myself in my head into one way or the other. Another concern for me as a Georgia fan, former player, I'm concerned about the defensive line right now. Warren Brinson banged up. I think he practiced, but he may not be 100% for the game. And then we still don't know where Mykel Williams is. Like for me,
he's got to play, dude.
I would love to see that guy on the field. It'd make me feel better, even though I know he won't be 100%. I just think his presence out there would just mean a ton. And so I'm concerned. You mentioned running the football last with your Price Pick, Jalen Miller, Jalen Milroe. Dude, they're going to have to run the football. And Kentucky 2 weeks ago ran the ball down our throats.
In between the tackles. In between the tackles, dude.
And that is something we're so just unused to seeing, watching a Kirby Smart coached Georgia football team. We're just not used to seeing it. It doesn't happen. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, what is this? This does not happen.
Right.
So that's a concern for me. But I'm going to twist it and use it as a positive because I think that gets fixed. I think they know it. They saw it on tape. And right now their manhood is getting tested. Like, hey, this ain't what we do. This ain't what we recruited you to do. This ain't the kind of player you are. This ain't the kind of man you are. You're not going to let this happen. So those guys will be fired up, let me tell you. And I expect a very physical game from the Dogs. 28-24 Dogs.
All right. I like that. How much does it matter, or what is the impact of having that chip on your shoulder, going on the road, being in a hostile environment? Georgia's a 2-point favorite, but surely they will have the mentality of the underdog. Does that matter when you go into a game like this, Jake?
I think so. I think it's kind of the doubter, the doubt me attitude. I think they're going to embrace that a ton. Played a bad game. Everybody knows it. Stuff happens. And I think they're ready to show the rest of college football, like, hey, guys, we had an off night. It sucked. It is what it is. But this is who we are. And so I really expect them to impose their will, Kirby quote there, impose their will on the field Saturday night. I really do.
Yeah, simply put, you have the opportunity to take the crowd out of the game. And there's probably nothing more energizing than doing that, whether it is a big play to start the game, whether it is an 8-play drive that just grinds down clock and you assert dominance, whether it is a big play on defense or special teams where you swing the momentum. the crowd at Bryant-Denny Stadium is going to be insane. I mean, it's a night game, college game day. They've been looking forward to this one just as much as Georgia has. And the Kalen DeBoer thing, I think, plays a bigger role than many people are maybe thinking it does in this moment. You know, Saturday morning when you wake up and Nick Saban's on game day, that's just going to feel weird. There's no question about it. And when Saban would walk onto that field as the head coach, it was like Lord Saban. Like you just felt, you were like, oh man, like we got to go up against this guy again situationally. There's always ways that, you know, Georgia would find a way to lose those games. Brandon Adams from Dog Nation, he put out a great stat yesterday, I think, Jake, talking about how the teams that Georgia plays against 21, 22, 23, and even this year, the least amount of penalties have been called on teams that Georgia plays against. Just an interesting trend. It was an observation that he made. He's like, I'm not blaming anybody. It's just a very interesting trend that since Georgia's dominance has really been kind of stamped on college football, the teams they play against don't get penalized. So, you know, we could all talk about, I mean, look, I could put my fan hat on and say Alabama gets all the calls because of course they do. But that will be something to watch as well. It comes down to, let me just say one thing. That Sunday night football game this past week, Jake, I don't know if you were able to watch it on the flight coming home.
A little bit.
But Melissa Stark, the sideline reporter, goes to Kirk Cousins before kickoff, and she's like, keys to the game, what are they? And Kirk kind of laughs. He's like, you know, you're going to call me cliche, but we need to run the ball. We need to be great on third down, and we need to be sound situationally. It's like, I say that every time on this podcast. It's the truest thing ever, especially in these types of matchups. You have to be elite on third down. You can't turn the ball over. You need to run the ball. And then in situational football, you can't mess up. If you have a chance to score before half, you need to do it. If you have a chance to score at the end of the game, you need to do it. Like, there are just no margins for error. And I think Kirby Smart has the advantage over Kalen DeBoer in those certain situations. This is the first time Alabama will be a home underdog since 2007 against LSU. That's 90 consecutive games. They have been a favorite at home. Probably changes this weekend. Jalen Milroe playing at a high level, 14 total touchdowns, 8 passing, 6 rushing. You said 28-24, Georgia?
Yep.
26-23, Georgia. They're going to reverse the score from the national championship game in 2018. How do you like that? 26-23, Georgia. Again, I have no idea. I'm going to be at the game. I'm bringing my kids. My wife's a Bammer. Her girlfriends are going to be there. Do you hear the reluctance in my voice? I do. I do. Jackie's like, you don't want to go. You don't want to go. I go, okay, let's think about this. Spend all my money, have my own family talk shit to me for 2 straight days, be around a bunch of people I don't necessarily want to see on game day. I love these people, but on game day, they're just going to be talking trash to me. Yeah, that sounds great, babe. Let's go. Oh, yeah, let's drive through a hurricane as well. Yeah. Let's all cram into an Airbnb. This sounds awesome. Let's do it. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm a great husband, Jake. What can you
That's
say?
it. Hey, you just say yes.
Father.
You know, you just say yes.
I told her, I said, literally the only way this is worth it for me is if Georgia wins. Like, that's it. That's it. If they lose, I'll just ride home and lick my wounds. Simple as that. Move on to next week. I've been through this too many times. You know, it's like, it is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So walking into the Lions, then once again, people, Drew Butler here for duty. If you see me, hand me an ice cold beer, because that is exactly what I'll need on Saturday. Lugging kids all around, hanging out with Bama fans. I love my wife, but that's it. That's it, Jake. All right, I'll get off my soapbox.
I love it. Good luck, man.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's finish this up. Kentucky at Ole Miss. I got some great Ole Miss stats here. Ole Miss is a 17.5-point favorite at home. The total is 53.5. Jake, this is Kentucky's first road game of the season.
Yeah, I really like Ole Miss in this one. Love Lane, love what they're doing. The only thing that concerns me is that Ole Miss hasn't played anybody yet. Kentucky has. They've played Georgia, they've played South Carolina, got whipped by South Carolina. This is their first kind of road test, but still give me Lane Kiffin, give me Jackson Dart, and I think they cover, do all the good things, and I just think they blow them out of the water.
Yeah, you said Ole Miss hasn't played anybody yet, and they haven't, but they have taken care of business. They've outscored their opponents 220-22 so far this season. Jackson Dart, quarterback, 1,554 yards. That is the most of any SEC quarterback in the last 20 years through 4 games. He has 12 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. Just a small 79.8% completion percentage, Jake. So really, really good start for Ole Miss. They're averaging 55 points a game. Kentucky only 22.5. This game's at the Grove. Brock Vandagriff's first SEC road game. I just think this one might get away from Mark Stoops. They had a great chance against Georgia to get that win. They will not repeat that performance. I think Lane Kiffin lights it up. So we'll both lay the big number there with Ole Miss. How about Oklahoma? Yeah, they're ranked 21st. They benched Jackson Arnold. Brent Venables made that announcement. So 2 coaches who are not very fond of their quarterback situations. Oklahoma heading to Auburn on the Plains, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. Oklahoma, a 2.5-point road favorite. The total here is 45.5. And Jake, I said it last week. They didn't necessarily force too many turnovers against Tennessee, but Oklahoma has been forcing turnovers in droves. Auburn loves to give the ball away. That will be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so interesting. Just battle of the quarterbacks. Both just not playing well at the quarterback position right now. Both teams needing and searching for a win. Both coming off losses last week. I don't know. I feel like my brain says Oklahoma, but my heart just says Auburn. I think I'm gonna go Auburn here. I think they want it and they need it more.
They do need it more. They are extremely desperate. But look, if you can't take care of the football, you might have to side with Hugh Freeze when he goes to the podium and says, my players cannot control the football. That is why we cannot win football games. So I'll take Oklahoma here. I'll lay the 2.5 with Oklahoma. I think they force the turnovers, and I think that they come out the victor, and Hugh Freeze will be able to throw more people under the bus after the game. How about this Big Ten matchup? This line was super surprising to me. 19th ranked Illinois, who just beat Nebraska last Friday night, heads to Penn State, 9th ranked Penn State, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on NBC. Penn State is a 19-point favorite, Jake. That is a significant number. Illinois is undefeated. Got any thoughts here?
I think that's a lot of points. I think they're. I don't know. I could go with the backwards thinking. It's a lot of points, so they're wanting us to take the under and take. I don't know, but I think Illinois is going to show up. I think they've proven to have a good defense this year. I like Illinois in this matchup. I really do. I don't like them to win, but they're going to lose by less than 19 for sure.
Yeah, Brent Bielema and Luke Altmaier has been playing really good for them. Brent Bielema, head coach at Illinois, excuse me. He knows how to grind out a football game. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So slowing it down, Drew Aller's been able to kind of let it rip a little bit more this season. They got great running backs at Penn State. Night game. I don't know if it's the whiteout game or not. I would assume not.
Yeah.
19's way too many points, though. So you and I are both taking the 19 with Illinois. And then the last game, Notre Dame, they cannot afford another misstep, Jake. They are hosting 15th ranked Louisville at 16th ranked Notre Dame, 3:30 p.m. on the Peacock. Notre Dame, a 6-point home favorite. That surprised me as well. Notre Dame, the higher ranked team or the lower ranked team, 16, obviously Louisville 1 spot ahead of them, laying 6 to an undefeated Louisville team who played in the ACC championship a year ago, who just dismantled Georgia Tech a week ago. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think that win last week against Georgia Tech is impressive. Look, Georgia Tech, I mean, they're not world beaters yet, but right now we can look. They passed the eye test. They're a gritty, good, hard-playing football team, and they just beat them last week. Notre Dame, I still don't know what they are. They don't know what they are. I mean, to me, if they win this game, they're sitting pretty in Suntan City. I just don't think they win this game. And
you don't think so? Wow, taking Louisville. You know what? I like Louisville as well. Too many points, no doubt about it. Jeff Brom, a great coach. Tyler Shuck, this kid has been in college since 2018, Jake. Tyler Shuck has been in college since 2018. Wow. Started at Oregon, transferred to Texas Tech, Now he's at Louisville, off to a great start. Seems to be a great fit in Jeff Brom's offense. So 6 points is too many. Notre Dame might squeak it out, but I think Louisville keeps it close. So give me 6 points there as well. That's your Inside the Five. I do have some breaking news that I'll break before I let you go. Bear Alexander, former 5-star defensive lineman at Georgia, back-to-back national champion at Georgia, who's at USC now, notably transferred from Georgia to USC for NIL. He plans to redshirt the remainder of his season as well and enter the transfer portal. Pete Nakos from On3 says, quote, this comes after Bear Alexander nearly entered the spring transfer portal and negotiated a new deal with USC's NIL collective. So the horses are leaving the barn in the NIL promised land. Giddy up, buckle up. I don't know, man. Like, what do you do? What do you do? I have no idea.
This redshirt rule is throwing things for a twist. Watch them get away with it.
Yeah, of course, dude.
Watch them throw it out because they don't. Nobody wants this.
No.
Nobody wants guys playing games and getting out of there.
Dude, like this is when you actually do feel bad for the coaches. You're like, this is
bad
bullshit.
ball.
Yeah,
that's bad ball.
That cannot happen. And it's really interesting that it is happening. So, all right, big show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Week 5 on deck. Be sure to download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT. You get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 entry. You've got our entry of the week. Jackson Dart, less than 298.5 passing yards. Trevor Etienne, more than 70.5 rushing yards. Jam Miller, more than 45.5 rushing yards. You put $5 on that, you instantly get $50. Promo code PUNT. Prize Picks is the best. Love them being a partner of Punt and Pass. Tell a friend, tell a family member. Use that promo code PUNT. Slam it. Download it. They're the best. Follow us on social media as well, at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at Fromm Jake. Jake, anything on the way out, my man?
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. It's going to be a fun weekend. Again, if you see me in Tuscaloosa, hand me a cold beer. I will need it in the worst way. Thanks so much, Jake. Thanks to our buddy Chris Marler for joining us. Thank you, Spencer Ray, producer extraordinaire. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay dry, stay safe with the hurricane, and we will talk to you on Monday. See ya.
We out.